Hello and welcome to the Radiate Wellness Podcast with your host, metaphysician, Reiki master, and hypnotherapist, Christy Clemens Hoffman. Each week, we will discover teachings, tips, and tools to radiate your best life ever with practitioners, authors, and luminaries to help you on your path. Wellness, joy, peace, abundance. What do you want to radiate?
Welcome back to the Radiate Wellness Podcast. Today, we radiate consciousness with Johnathan DePotter, who is the founder and CEO of Behold Retreats. And I don't want to give away too much yet because I want Johnathan to explain in his own words. Hi, how are you today, Johnathan?
I'm really well, Christy. Thanks for having me.
And you're so welcome. And you're located currently in Thailand. That's exciting.
Yeah, I was living in Bangkok in my past career for a couple of years, and then I was kind of transitioning out of that life, that world, and moving out of the corporate world and into the world of plant medicine, which now takes up most of my time and energy.
Oh, that is amazing. So yes, plant medicine, and these Behold Retreats are centered around plant medicine?
That's right. So we predominantly work with two plant medicines, two psychedelics, Ayahuasca, which is best known for being from Central and South America, and also 5-MeO-DMT, also known as the toad or bufo, which is a very powerful plant medicine psychedelic and gaining in its popularity. So those are the two that we predominantly work with, and we work with a couple others as well, Psilocybin, magic mushrooms, and also San Pedro, which is a cactus that grows in the Americas.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so many questions. How did you first discover plant medicine?
Yeah, so I guess winding all the way back, I grew up in Hawaii, which is, an environment which is amazing and beautiful, but quite a substance-rich environment, shall I say. And growing up there, I didn't feel particularly inspired to explore anything of that sort. And then, through, growing up in Hawaii, I moved to New Zealand when I was 17, studied university there, lived there 10 years. And I guess, subsequent to that, I was fortunate. I got a great job opportunity in management and strategy consulting in Hong Kong, and kind of, I guess, ultimately found myself endlessly climbing the corporate ladder, but not necessarily feeling like there were improvements to the quality of life that were coming as a result of the next client, the next deal, the next promotion. And so at the time I was actually an atheist, didn't believe anything spiritual existed. And so that's, kind of, I guess, what the set of events that culminated in me, looking myself in the mirror one morning and go, there's got to be more to life than this. I don't know what it is. I didn't think it was anything in the spiritual direction at the time, but, let's go out there and explore the world. So I decided to take a year off. And as part of that, I found my way to a retreat in Peru, an ayahuasca retreat. And it was a very terrifying, challenging, and, door opening experience in terms of, opening access to the spiritual realm. And, that is ultimately what's guided me over the past 5 years into establishing Behold Retreats and guiding others to get the most out of this work and avoid some of the potholes that I've found myself in along the journey.
So you approached it rather trial and error then?
So I guess, my first experience, as I mentioned, was a very powerful experience, but very challenging. I wasn't well prepared. I now recognize that, I was well cared for in terms of on the physical plane, but I wasn't mentally and emotionally prepared. And I wasn't particularly well cared for on the spiritual realm either. And so I think when people explore this work, it's not for everyone, but for those who do feel called to explore their consciousness and to use this modality, this tool as a mechanism to do so, that they come into this kind of prepared as much as one can be for what is a very potent and profound experience. So, I guess for me, it was years of retreats without doing the mental and emotional work and not really knowing how to distinguish between what a high quality experience looks like versus an experience. And so over the years of attending many 5-star retreats and, making, shall I say, mistakes of my own, then I came to recognize what it is that leads to the deeper breakthroughs and people actually being able to sustain more of the benefits from this work.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Right. Because there are some pitfalls there. This is not for the faint of heart, right? We have to really know what we're getting into and want to get in. Yeah, it can be challenging. I've never done, okay, disclaimer, I've never done any of these things, but I know people who have, and it's not for the faint of heart. It's extremely challenging, perhaps terrifying. And there are people who have been permanently altered in a negatively impactful way.
There are such people out there. When this work is done with the right intentionality, with the right expert guidance, the right facilitation, and the right precautions in relation to safety screening, both medically and psychologically, then this work is safe. The examples of people who have gone through a rigorous process having, problems in the long term are zero to none. I myself have never heard of someone who fits that description. But that being said, what you shared there is, I believe, is 100% accurate, which is this is not for the faint of heart. It's for people who are ready for a very deep experience, are looking for some real transformation, some real improvements to their quality of life. And, I encourage everyone to spend, sometimes clients come to us and they're super excited because they've seen, a video or two that says good things about this work, and, or they've heard a couple good things from some friends, like perhaps you have, and they're like, okay, great. I've had 2 friends that do this. I'm ready to do this. And it's like, well, please take the time and the energy to do a lot more of your own research, a lot more of your own soul searching to understand why it is that you're, deciding to take this step. Because while I'm of course naturally a believer in this work, it's very important that people take the time and the energy to develop their own motivations so that they can, move into this with eyes wide open.
Oh my gosh. So do you personally lead these retreats?
No, I don't. So we have facilitators and healers at each of our locations in Mexico, in Costa Rica, Portugal, and the Netherlands, and we'll reopen in Peru shortly. And most of our practitioners have been doing this work, between 15 to 30 years. So they're very highly experienced in doing this work. I myself have never facilitated medicine experiences. It's not necessarily something I feel called to, but bringing together the pieces. So whether that's the coaches, the therapists, the yoga practitioners, the facilitators, the healers, I do a lot of the organization to bring the pieces together to kind of ensure that these are transformational experiences versus psychedelic experiences, if that makes sense.
Oh, it does. Absolutely. That's what any of us would hope for, is that these are transformational experiences, that you get something profound out of it. And so it sounds like you've got yoga counselors, therapists in this. What does a retreat entail?
Yeah, so with most of our clients, we guide them in the lead up to the retreat, and we also guide them following the retreat. So in the weeks beforehand, we help our clients get clear on their future selves. These medicines respond very strongly to intentionality. And so when we have a deep intention, then the medicine is really able to help us see the things that we need to see about ourselves in order to become that future self that we have within us. Then we teach tools for mental and emotional work, right? So these medicines are very powerful neurogenetically, so they can help us grow new brain cells and also reconnect parts of the brain that have been compartmentalized away or disconnected. In the modern Western world, so many of us have become quite patterned in the way that we're thinking, as almost like an energy efficient response to the overwhelming complexity we just face on an everyday basis. And so, these medicines do a lot to decompartmentalize and reconnect the mind, body, heart, and spirit in the ways that they should be connected. And so that's a very powerful experience in of itself. But unless you actually know the patterns of mind and the limiting beliefs that are holding you back, then you actually are you're hoping that something good is happening. Whereas if you actually know, well, it's these patterns of mine, it's these limiting beliefs that I'm trying to actually rewire the circuitry of the brain, the default, neural pathway that is being used. Then when you're working with the medicine and in the period following the medicine, when you've got, increased neuroplasticity, then you're really able to get those shifts. And equally with the emotional work, we all have many layers of shame, guilt, fear, grief, apathy, anger, envy, pride stuck in our energetic body. And so this medicine can help us reconnect more deeply with our emotional and energetic bodies and begin to release. But unless we actually know how to release these emotions from our emotional bodies, then it can be quite challenging. We often are holding on to the things that we actually want to be releasing in those experiences. So that's so we prepare people with the tools ahead of the retreat. Then we bring them into the retreat. Typically our retreats are like a week. We will have 3 or 4 ceremonies over that duration. Around that, amazing vegetarian meals. We might go and go for a swim on the beach, or a hike in the jungle, depending upon the location. And plenty of time for resting, reflection, journaling, all of those sorts of good things. We do some yoga, we might do some meditation, some breath work. Those sorts of modalities are highly complementary for working with plant medicine. And then following the retreat, we help them integrate the experience. So, how are you bringing those lessons, the insights, the downloads that you got, who is the new you, and how are you bringing that person back into the real world as you return home and back to many of the pressures and the people who expect you to be exactly like you were before, even if you feel quite substantially different. So there's a lot that goes into that entire kind of process to help people ultimately land in a better place.
I mean, it sounds like a very like guided type of thing, very, supportive in terms of before, during, and after. So during an experience such as this, like what tends to happen during the experience?
So it varies. Some people, just to tell the story from the lens of my first experience, I was there with 2 friends. I myself had, as I shared before, a very challenging experience, a lot of visuals, a lot of things moving on all dimensions that I was aware of, and in some dimensions that I wasn't aware of. And so, this medicine, ayahuasca, that we were working with in particular, is very demanding upon the physical body. So that can lead to quite a bit of purging. And that was a big challenge for me. There was, a lot of purging during that first retreat experience. Another friend of mine had, similar sort of purging to me, but none of the visuals, none of the kind of spiritual experience. So he was quite, upset and kind of at the time, frankly, disappointed. But the medicine was doing a lot of detoxification for him on the physical level. And so often that's actually prohibitive in terms of, reaching a harmonization in frequency across body, mind, heart, and spirit, so that you can begin to have more kind of spiritual experiences. And then finally, my third friend, he didn't purge at all. He didn't even purge once during the ceremony, and he had an absolutely brilliant experience. So, again, I think that's kind of can give you a bit of a flavor for different experiences that are possible, from, the very challenging with 0 benefits all the way to the not that challenging with actually a lot of benefits. And so everything in between is possible. If you meet people who've done this work for decades, 10, 20, 30 years, and if you ask them, hey, what's going to happen tonight? They're always going to turn to you and they're going to say, I have no idea, because it's really, it's deep, non-deterministic work, and we never know what's going to take place.
Did you know that Radiate Wellness is more than just a podcast? That's right. We're also a comprehensive, holistic wellness practice Find out about our services, practitioners, and upcoming events at radiatewellnesscommunity.com. While you're there, visit our podcast page to read more about our great guests and even donate to the podcast. If you like our podcast, you can help in other ways as well, like subscribe or follow us wherever you're listening right now. Tell a friend, a family member, or a coworker about the great content you find here. And if you wouldn't mind, please give us a thumbs up, a 5-star rating, or a positive review. Sounds like a small thing, but it really helps. You might like to know about our Facebook communities while we're at it. We have a free community, the Radiate Wellness Community, on Facebook for news and great free content. Our subscribers group is Radiate You, as in the letter U, but also, well, you. There you'll find curated replays of past classes, guest interviews, and more. And now, back to our podcast and back to our guest.
That sounds very similar to some of the work that I do with quantum healing and hypnosis technique. The benefits are just all over the board, right? We never know what's going to happen. So it's kind of hard to prepare in a way, but then again, it's also exciting because we just don't know what transformations are going to take place. And how do you feel your experience with this plant medicine has transformed you? Like, what have you gone through? What shifts have you made?
Yeah. So I guess, as I shared briefly before, this work is about harmonizing mind, body, heart, and spirit. So trying to bring them into a single vibration, and then trying to bring them up into a higher vibration. And I guess, if you'd asked me this 5 years ago, I probably would have laughed. And I didn't actually recognize how, I was using my mind for these things and my body for those things. And the two weren't necessarily as well connected as we might have hoped for. I shared before that I was kind of spiritually blocked. I didn't have any evidence for myself that any
such thing. An atheist.
Yeah. So I was, and I come from quite spiritual parents as well. It's just that I never had any individual personal felt experience. And so I had no evidence accordingly. So, as we harmonize, then we can really begin to feel, I think one of the major benefits is, I've shared some of the neurogenerative benefits, but we can really begin to feel the vibration in the body. And health and energetic health and feel the energy channels within the body begin to open up and to be able to use those more freely in ways that I would have thought sounded like some strange black magic stuff if you'd asked me 5 years ago. And, I'm sure that, from your work also, just exploring consciousness itself. Everything is available through the exploration of consciousness. The outside universe is mirrored in the inside universe and more. And so we can explore things that we can't see in everyday waking consciousness in the outside world by going within and the access that comes along with that. So, I often, and within that, as you probably well know, there's, I guess you might describe it as a sort of hierarchy of spiritual experiences of, that reflect the level of consciousness that one has reached. And, I look at this medicine again as it's not that it's positive, it's neutral. It's how we use it that can be positive or negative or, neither, frankly speaking. And so when we're using it with the right intention, the right context, the right support, the right guidance, then we can reach these very high vibration states, right? And we talk about breakthroughs that, things like, usually it's about healing, right? At the beginning of journeys for people. So it's getting rid of the trauma, the lower level emotions, the limiting beliefs, all of those sorts of things. And as those things begin to, I guess, gain in momentum and accrue in terms of the benefits, then we can break through to full self-love, right? And that's a beautiful moment when clients finally get that feeling of like they've cleared out a lot of their lower level stuff, and they like, wow, I love myself, and it's just so motivating and beautiful to see them reach that. And then after that is the more what we might describe as the more profound mystical experiences. So universal love, right? Where we understand that rationality and debate and differences and politics and ... all that stuff doesn't matter. There's only one law in the universe, and it's universal love. Above that is things like the interconnectivity of all things, where we understand that everything in the universe is deeply interconnected with absolutely everything else. And that it's all energetic, and that, if we think that we can do one bad thing over here and not have some sort of, karmic impact over there, we're not fooling anyone else except for ourselves. So, it's really, supports playing the game of life in a much different way. And then, above that, there's many of the other sorts of experiences, God consciousness. People talk about, reaching samadhi states, or all of these, experiences where we can, understand the nature of self, the universe, and the relationship between the two. And, whether that's the expression of life, the expression of creation, and, all of these sorts of mystical experiences. And so I think that this work, these medicines can show us what's possible. And then it's our work to bring that back into the 3-dimensional and begin to walk the steps on a daily basis to integrate that experience and to move towards those states of consciousness on an everyday basis, versus with something that you might have used for 3 ceremonies on a retreat when you were in, say, Costa Rica.
Right. And so post-experience, I think you're absolutely right that we have to step into our new reality, right? Integrate the new reality, integrate ourselves and our understanding. Because there's always the choice. Do you go back to your regular life, your regular thoughts and beliefs, your regular activities, your regular friends, or do you integrate these experiences? And are there ways to support people afterward, after these transformative, when they go back to their lives? Is there a way for them to find support as they integrate?
Yeah, so I think there's many different aspects to that. And I think worth also contextualizing, one thing that popped into my head as I realized that I've given, consciousness exists in polarity. I've talked about all of letting go of some of the lower level bad stuff and moving up into the good stuff. But as we are given access to these higher reaches, we're also given access to the lower reaches. There's bad stuff down there. It's pretty dark, as you well know. So often, some of the challenges in integrating these experiences, if you've had this beautiful, the interconnectivity of all things, okay, great. Like, we're going to be able to help you integrate that into your life. Like, yes, there's going to be some changes. Maybe you don't want to go out drinking with your buddies on a Friday night anymore. Maybe you're actually looking for something that gives you more purpose and meaning. That's fine. That's easy. That's easy stuff. But when people go down into the dark stuff, then it can be more challenging to help them try to, bounce back and come back to a stable state, because they've seen some dark stuff that is, what they often feel is a reflection of themselves. So making sure that they understand that, look, these are all energies that are there. We all have aspects of these energies within us, but it's not a reflection of who or what you are, and all of these sorts of things. So, it's important to have expert guidance through that process so that you can release any of the lower level energies that are associated there, so that you can come back and be in a very good place. And then absolutely, as you say, integrating that experience into the world around you. So are you going to go back to the same job? Are you going to engage with family and friends in the same way? Are you going to continue to pursue the hobbies, or are there new things that you think now that inspire you or interest you or motivate you? And then how do you begin to make these transitions? Like I shared, it was, for me, it was about 3.5 years between first exploring this work or having a first experience and having the confidence to be able to, feel like I'd done enough of my own work that I could, reasonably inform other people on what to look for to find better experiences versus other experiences that are out there. And so, I think this is true for anyone, regardless of what the messages that they got, the insights that they got is, okay, well then now there's a transition. Maybe that transition, for some people, it's like 2 weeks, we're going from this to that and it's all going to happen in 2 weeks. And for other people, it's like, okay, I've got this deeper understanding, but I'm in a, particular place in life, and, I've got kids and this and that and other, responsibilities, and this is going to be a multi-year journey and a transition into this other me. And both are perfectly fine. It's whatever it is that arises that feels in integrity with the individual that is the right answer for them.
Oh, that's amazing. So how many times a year do you offer these experiences?
Yeah, so we run probably 3 or 4 retreats per month.
Per month? Wow.
Yeah, different locations. So this work is really picking up in its popularity, which I think is on the whole is a good thing. I think there's a lot of people who are recognizing that, we've just set the bar for mental health at a subjectively low level relative to what's possible, what's humanly possible for mental health, for just about everything. And people are recognizing that whether it's through breath work, meditation, plant medicine, many other modalities that are out there, that we are much more than what we have been led to believe or allowed ourselves to believe. And so more people are connecting with that. And so it's, this is one of those tools that is very powerful and a lot of people are motivated to explore. So we're here to help for those who feel the calling.
Right. And where can we find out about these retreats? What's coming up and just more information?
Yeah, you can find us on behold-retreats.com or at behold_retreats on Instagram. And there's no book now button on our website. We like to get to know every one of our clients to make sure there's a mutual fit. So come through and, if you're looking for a great experience, come through and have a chat and we'll see if we can help each other out.
Wow. Yeah. I have to say your website is beautiful and very informative. So I know I appreciate that kind of thing. And I would encourage anybody who is interested in doing this to get in touch with you. Just one more quick thing, or is there anyone who should not have one of these experiences?
Yes, absolutely. So the major contraindications are psychological in terms of bipolar, schizophrenia, and anyone with psychosis. If any of those things run in your family, there's also a likelihood that we would not be able to proceed for your benefit and for your safety. From a medical perspective, we take all of our clients through an in-depth medical screening. So I won't list the long laundry list of potential contraindicated medical conditions, but we take our clients through a strong safety screening. And then the last is no prescription medications in essence. So again, we work with doctors who are able to help you, to decide if there's changes in prescriptions that need to be made. On the whole, particularly ayahuasca does not play nicely with prescription medications, and that's a real deal breaker, if you will.
Sure. Well, thank you so much for your time with this today, Johnathan. I really appreciate it, and I hope to see you on one of these retreats soon.
Amazing. That'd be fantastic, Christy. It's been a real pleasure.
Thank you.
Radiate Wellness is an international community of holistic and alternative healers dedicated to helping you create spiritual, energetic, and physical well-being. To learn more about our practitioners, services, classes, and events, or to schedule an appointment, visit us at radiatewellnesscommunity.com.